Welcome to 1130 The Tiger Podcast. This is your Week 3 preview of everything college football going on in the country. I am joined here with, if y'all haven't heard already, my brother, JD.
What's going on, guys?
And he's really excited because he will be traveling to Norman this weekend to go watch Oklahoma versus Ohio State. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Boomer Sooner, baby.
And he will be going to that game, which is one of the games we're going to talk about because this week is loaded with great games, really high-ranked teams against each other, and also games that are going to test the skills of players around the country, like Louisville's quarterback, Lamar Jackson. And I'm going to go ahead and go on my rant with Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson is completely overrated because, all right, Jay, who did he play the first game?
Charlotte
University. Who did they play their second game?
On the road at Syracuse.
Yes, and he had these crazy plays, these video game numbers, but then again, they were against those defenses in what some people would call vanilla, plain, nothing special. And, okay, so in 2 games, he's 37 for 62, 697 yards passing, but a 59% completion rating, 7 touchdowns, and he's thrown in 1 interception. And then people are also freaking out because of how athletic he is, because rushing 32 carries, 318 yards, averaging 9.9 yards a carry. Pretty good, but again, against vanilla defense, I guess you could say.
Yeah, okay, he's had video-like numbers, like you said, Dylan, but to only have a 96.4 QBR against, at best, mediocre defenses, that's not telling me anything.
He had a 72-yard touchdown run, though. Come on, you gotta
mediocre defense.
Come on, you gotta give it to him. Come on,
no, dude, you can't give that to somebody over a mediocre defense.
Saturday, the first game Saturday, I think is a game to watch because if you really want to see if Lamar Jackson's for real, going up against that Florida State defense and that front line that they have, you see, Delaney Walker. If he busts through that line, Delaney Walker is one of the most athletic defensive ends I've seen since J.J. Watt.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with that.
We'll see how he does against Florida State because Florida State's defense, they're number 2 for a reason.
Oh, these guys are legit. They're for real.
Yeah, and they're number 2 for a reason. Their defense is probably better than whenever Jameis Winston was there when they won the national title, I think. And, again, they only gave up 14 points to Charlotte and then 28 points to Syracuse. So not really bad numbers defensively, but they're going up against a team with probably the 3rd or 4th best running back in the country in my eyes, Dalvin Cook, and someone who's definitely poised to win the Heisman this year. And that quarterback, Francois.
I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you right now, with giving up 28 points to Syracuse, which was mediocre offense last year and this year too, that's not going to cut it against Florida State. Florida State will go in there and beat them by at least 21 points. I'm calling it right now.
21 point? Okay, I wasn't going to go that high, but I really do not know what to think. I think this game is going to tell me if Louisville is for real, if Lamar Jackson is for real, because after seeing these 2 games and, looking at his stats, because, stats really, they can lie, but they usually don't. You look at a quarterback like Oklahoma's Baker Mayfield and how his stats are usually good, but the way he plays makes him so much better. And Lamar Jackson doesn't really show me, the intensity of a Baker Mayfield, but I see the athleticism of like a Johnny Manziel, but Johnny Manziel was just a whole different thing in college.
Yeah, I agree with that, but Lamar Jackson, I don't think he's as accurate enough to take his game to the next level and prevail against a Florida State or Clemson. It's just not going to happen. Like I said, they're going to get beat by 21 points because that Florida State defense is going to pursue him hard, and they're going to keep their keys on him, and it's just going to cause a lot of pressure for Lamar Jackson, and he hasn't had any pressure yet. I mean, they've been killing everybody, but they've been mediocre teams.
And we're definitely going to see if Louisville's offensive line is up to the task. Because I know I keep bringing up DeMarcus Walker, not Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker is the guy from Shreveport who went and played for, I think, the Chiefs. No, it's DeMarcus Walker, the senior defensive end. And that dude had 4.5 sacks against Ole Miss. And I cannot wait to see what he does against Louisville and to see if Lamar Jackson is going to be able to escape the pocket from him. Because like I said, DeMarcus Walker is freakishly athletic. Okay, I'll put it like this. I've noticed if you're a defensive lineman and you have a number lower than 90-something, you're freakishly athletic. J.J. Watt's an exception.
Yeah, but because they like to use those guys on offense if they're that athletic.
Yeah, and number 44, that's a person to keep an eye on for the Florida State Seminoles. That's going to be my X factor for Florida State because they're going to have to slow down Lamar Jackson if he is for real, and I think he's going to be a key component in that win. I say Florida State wins by, JD said 14. I'm going to say about 10.
Correction, I said 21.
Oh, 21. See, I'm going to say about 10 to 14 point win for the Seminoles. So now we're going to be moving on to Alabama versus Ole Miss, which Ole Miss has won 2 years in a row against the unstoppable Alabama Crimson Tide. And did you see Nick Saban chew out Lane Kiffin after they were up by, I think, 28 points?
Oh, yeah, I saw it, and I totally understand it. Nick Saban is trying to get his team focused and ready and carry it on over to the game against Ole Miss. And if you would listen or if you would look up how Alabama practiced that week, they were sloppy. They were just very not themselves. And it carried over, and I believe that all the frustration from all the week just happened to just come out all at once whenever they turned that ball over late in the game. And he's trying to get his team realize the fact that they're going into a hostile environment where they've lost to this team 2 years in a row, and he's just trying to not make mistakes and get his team to perfection.
Yeah, and the matchup, not really a matchup, but the two people I'm interested in seeing in this game is senior quarterback for Ole Miss, Mr. self-proclaimed best quarterback in the nation, Chad Kelly, who's having a decent year, not too bad already in the first 2 games, versus freshman Jalen Hurts from Alabama. And Hurts is a quarterback that is new to the Alabama system. They've never really had someone this athletic play quarterback for Alabama, which in college football is very dangerous and very scary for me to think that, because Alabama's always had that pocket-type passer that hands the ball off and makes clutch throws on third down. But now Jalen Hurts, he can make clutch throws on third down, but then also scramble for the 5 yards you need to get the first down. And it's... If you're an SEC fan at all, I think this just makes Alabama so much better. And with, I think Alabama's definitely going to get their revenge this year against Ole Miss with
call it what it is, Dylan. Mississippi University.
I'm sorry, I was about to say Mississippi State though, but also, what has been going on with Bo Scarborough? I remember you, JD, were all on the Bo Scarborough is a natural beast and he's going to be better than Derrick Henry, but he's not even the leading rusher.
Well, I mean, it's just running back by committee, and this Harris kid has obviously just been putting in more work. So
20 carries for 183 yards.
Well, that's, I mean, typical for Alabama. They don't have a standout back, but I mean, just give it time. The kid was a 5-star coming out. Just give it time, and he'll probably take over that offense at running back position.
All right, we'll see. Because isn't he bigger than Derrick Henry?
Oh yeah, he's bigger.
Goodness gracious! All right, so I got Bama winning by I say 10 points. I say it's going to be closer than the scoreboard shows, but I think Alabama's offense is going to be the X factor in that game. The whole offense against that Ole Miss defense that's not what it was last year. But
I got Alabama and Ole Miss being tied at halftime, and then Alabama comes out with a lot of intensity in the second half, shuts Ole Miss and Chad Kelly down on offense, and prevails to a 17-point victory.
17 points. All right. So now we're going to be moving on to our next game of the week, which is Texas A&M versus Auburn. And Texas A&M with new graduate transfer Trevor Knight, the former Sooner, coming in and playing for Kevin Sumlin. And Knight's been pretty decent, I guess you could say. He had a great game against UCLA, a decent game. And Auburn is having quarterback, I don't want to say issues, but the issue is that they keep subbing in quarterbacks. I think, what was it? The first game of the year when they played Clemson, they played 3 quarterbacks that game. And I think that's what made them lose that game was taking out Sean White and putting Jeremy Johnson in to where basically every time he came in, they knew it was going to be a draw or an option play. Because when they recruited him, everyone thought he was going to be the next Cameron Newton at Auburn. But I'm going to say Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is going to have a better than usual year post Manziel era. I think they'll get about 9 to 10 wins in, and I think they'll beat Auburn in Auburn this week by, I'm going to say, 9 points. So I think Trevor Knight is going to be the X factor in that game because Auburn's defense is not usually what it is, what keeps them in games. Yes, they had a great game against Clemson, but I think Trevor Knight's going to show what he did against Bama in 2013. So
you got A&M winning this game by 9 points?
I have them winning by 9.
Not so fast, my friend.
Alrighty. Show me what you got.
I got Auburn winning this game because of the sole fact that Kevin Sumlin just seems, when they're expected to win an SEC football game, it doesn't seem like he can pull it out. He always has trouble against a conference game that he should win, or it's very close. I just see that Auburn, that running game that Auburn has, I think will be hard to stop for Texas A&M. And I think Auburn's going to win this game by 3 points.
And JD's coming in. I know you know what I'm about to say. JD's coming into this thinking, how about them Auburn Tigers?
Yes, I am.
All right. So we got one disagreement so far. And now we're going to be talking about the Mississippi State versus LSU. With all this controversy going around now in Baton Rouge about who's going to be the starting quarterback now that Les Miles finally, I guess you can say, manned up and benched Brandon Harris against Jacksonville State, which a lot of people think he should have done against Wisconsin because he just wasn't making the throws. And people are thinking Etling's the answer to LSU's problems. Well, first, let's go ahead and talk about that. What do you think is going on in Baton Rouge, and who do you think starts the game Saturday against Mississippi State?
Going out on a limb, we're going Justice McMillan as the starting quarterback.
You are wrong.
I'm kidding. I think he's going to start Etling just because Etling brought in that momentum in whenever he benched Harris, but it could be very possibly that if he does bench Etling, why would he not give the freshman a shot, McMillan? Why not? Just give him a shot, throw him out there. What could it hurt? Because you know that Harris, his mind is mentally rocked. So give the kid a shot, I say.
Okay. Well, you can definitely see how much pressure Brandon Harris was under after that Wisconsin game where he was crying on the sideline after he threw that interception to end the game. And you can see that he really wants it, but I feel okay. My thing with Harris is, one, I think the offensive line for LSU isn't. It's a good offensive line, but not as good as everyone thought they were going to be this year. And I think Harris, with him getting knocked around a little bit in the Wisconsin game, and I think he just had little. I bet you he was just rattled going into that game already, and with all the criticism he's already had, and everyone saying that he, because it was true, he had the shoulders on his team, the team on his shoulders rather, and how well he played determined how well their season was going to go, and he did not show up the first game, and then he comes in not feeling very protected going into that Jacksonville State game, even though it was Jacksonville State, and he still wasn't, I guess you can say, confident going into that game, going 1 for 4, and then Miles really pulling him out. And then, I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all saw how he looked on the sideline the whole entire game. He looked like he was throwing a little fit a little bit, but, understandable. He's been the starter for so long, and he's just not getting his throws right. He's not getting his reads right. And I think Harris is just not poised enough. He's always panicking a little bit, and he's not running as much. I think the coaches probably wanted him to throw a lot more than he usually does, and so he's trying to stay in the pocket and make throws that aren't smart. And I think that Etling starts this game and see how he goes. But the my X factor for this game is definitely going to be Mississippi State's sophomore quarterback Fitzgerald, and how good of a game he had against South Carolina. Yes, I know it's South Carolina and Will Muschamp, the head coach, who I think is the worst hiring ever in college football. And Dylan Fitzgerald, he had a decent game against South Carolina. He won the starting quarterback position, that competition that they had. And he's 9 for 32, the 178 yards passing. And he has 2 touchdowns and an interception. But he also rushed for 206 yards, and he's a real athletic quarterback, and I think people in Starksville think that he is the answer to the post-Prescott era. So give me your thoughts on what's going to happen in this game, JD, and be honest about it. That was sarcasm, because I know you're going to be.
Honestly, I think that since Prescott has left, Mississippi State is just going to be the joke of the SEC. And I think they're going to be worse than Vanderbilt this year. But I think LSU will win this game I'm going to go ahead and say they win this game by 24 points. Just the sole fact that I don't think Mississippi State will be able to handle Leonard Fournette, even though he does have a bum ankle. But I think Etling will play well. I don't think he'll get benched. I'm just saying, if they do bench Etling, they need to go. I think they need to try out the freshman, see what he's got. But who knows? I mean, Dan Mullen could get his Bulldogs up and ready and hyped up for this game, because they have played LSU tough the past 2 years. Won one of them. But just with all the talent out in Baton Rouge, LSU should win this game. My X factor actually is Les Miles. If he will let Cam Cameron run the offense and get his nose out of it and let him dial up some creative pass plays. Because if you look at their receiving totals, their leading receiver on the year has 2 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. How is your leading receiver through 2 games have 65 yards? How does that happen? That is the problem with LSU. You need to open up the playbook, let Cam Cameron do his job. Come on, Les. That's your one and only problem. If you want to keep your job, do that.
Okay. So, Les Miles, if you are listening to this, JD has told you what you need to do to keep your job in Baton Rouge. So, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to move down to Michigan State, Notre Dame. I really don't want to get into this game. I don't know why. I'm not interested in it, but I'm interested in who you think is going to win.
This is a tough one.
So I do not give a flying flip about either of these teams.
I'd give a flying flip who wins this game because it's a top 20 matchup. But Sparty going into to football Jesus, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that Michigan State gets within the spread, which is Notre Dame an 8-point favorite. I say Michigan State gets within that, but Notre Dame prevails behind Deshaun Kaiser, who reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. I think he's going to play phenomenal, and he's going to lead his team to a 3-point victory.
All right. Well,
who do you have, Dylan?
I'm just going to go ahead and go against you. I'm going to say Michigan State just because they have Magic Johnson on their side.
All I got to say is, please, I hope to God you're wrong because I hate Notre Dame.
So you hope I'm wrong?
No, I hope I'm wrong.
Oh, hope you're wrong. Okay.
I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right, just for the sole fact.
So now we're going to talk about the team, at least for the first 30 minutes of the game against Alabama. USC, everyone thought, wow, this team is back. And they are going up against number 7 Stanford at 7 p.m. on ABC. Christian McCaffrey, a dude who I think is the best player in the entire country. It's crazy how athletic he is and how versatile he is on that football field with running, catching. He can even throw the football. And just the presence on that field is, for him, especially after last year's record-breaking season for all-purpose yards, that he's just incredible. He's I think Stanford's going to blow USC out this year just solely on McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey's going to have a huge game.
I'm right there with you. Stanford, last time they met in the Pac-12 championship game, they blew them out of the water 41-22, and McCaffrey was a huge factor in that game. The USC defense, I believe that actually the whole team was just shell-shocked about how they's got their faces blown off by the Crimson Tide. And I just believe that they're going to be still in shell shock from that and not going to be able to hype up for this game, and they're going to get beat by 28.
28-point win for Stanford. And when he said get their face blown off, I've never heard an analogy like that before.
First time for everything, I guess.
Yeah, I was just like, wait, what? But I think my X factor, if USC has a chance besides their defense, I think it is getting Juju Smith-Schuster more involved, because he had 1 catch against Alabama and 7 catches in their last game. And I think, this guy's supposed to be the best receiver in the entire country, and has 8 catches for 65 yards this year. But I think getting him, involved is going to be a huge factor for the entire season if they want to have a successful season, I guess you can say. In recent USC, it's, make a decent bowl game. But I think that and the quarterback play, but easily just to keep McCaffrey contained, and which I don't think they'll be able to do. He's just too versatile. He's too athletic. He's just too everything. McCaffrey is just an all-around weapon. I'm going to use a analogy I used for LeBron James during the basketball season for Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is like a Swiss Army knife. He's got everything you need right there. And when I say that, it's, if the rushing, if they're clogging up the holes for the run game, he's an excellent route runner. He's got great hands, and if he catches the ball in open field, it's over. But then if the secondary and the linebackers are locking down on short passes, and opening up the run game, then it's over right there. So I think that's another reason why Stanford's in my eyes, like a huge playoff contender, just because of one player, and that's hard to say for college football. And their coach is just one of the best in the country, with David Shaw and how he took over for Jim Harbaugh and how he's kept that Stanford program relevant. So now we're going to move on to what I think is going to be the game of the week, and where James Marsh, a.k.a. JD, is traveling to Norman, Oklahoma this week to go watch Oklahoma versus the Ohio State University. All right, so now we're going to talk about what I think is going to be the game of the week, and a game that's very close to me and JD's heart, because I will say again that we both grew up Oklahoma fans. And that's number 14 Oklahoma against number 3 the Ohio State University. So, Jay, I'm going to go ahead and let you give what you have to say about this game. But first, let's go ahead and tell everybody you will be traveling to Norman, Oklahoma this weekend for this football game. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I will be, and I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, shut up. I don't care anymore. I don't like you. So, all right, go ahead and give us give us your predictions, your X factors, and what you think will need to happen for whichever team you think is going to win.
The X factor in this football game to me is that Bob Stoops needs to get his team under control and cut out all the personal foul calls that they had against Houston in the first half, which, if you've listened to the Week 1 recap show, I was strongly talking about how that is the main reason why Oklahoma lost that football game. So if they cut out the personal foul calls and get their team right, Oklahoma will be able to run the football efficiently. Baker Mayfield will make his Baker Mayfield-like plays, and the youth of Ohio State will finally show, because they have no experience with only 6 returning starters from last year, I believe. And another reason why I think Oklahoma will win this ball game by 10 points is the sole fact as when Oklahoma loses a football game and they are healthy, as you could see last year when they lost to Texas, they turned it on and brought the fire to everybody they played all the way up until Clemson. And I strongly believe this is what's going to happen to the Ohio State Buckeyes, as Oklahoma will prevail and win this game by 10.
Yeah, of course. And what you were talking about with the stupid penalties that they were getting against Houston, personal foul penalties and just unnecessary penalties, especially on third down. And they're not consistently, getting stupid penalties. They just get them at the worst times. And because I remember, I think Houston had 5 straight penalties called on them, or 4 straight penalties called on them in that game.
But that was already when they were winning like 26-17.
Yeah.
They had all the momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And then Oklahoma ended up getting a late hit call out of bounds. So they got to cut down on that. But then also what their defense needs to work on is getting turnovers, because they are actually losing the turnover battle against their opponents. They have 1 turnover less. They've committed 1 turnover more than they've actually gotten turnovers. So and that's very unusual for an Oklahoma defense. Their defense needs to step up, just wreak havoc against this Ohio State team, and they need to. Their secondary needs to lock down, because they're young, but we've seen what they can do. We have a lot of returning secondary people from last year, just not Zach Sanchez, and probably one of the best cornerbacks in the whole league. The whole country, and probably will be in the whole league in a couple of years with the Panthers, because he's starting as a rookie on that Panthers defense. So that just shows how good he is and how good he was in college. So Who'd you say your X factor was?
My X factor is Bob Stoops getting his team under control.
All right, yeah. And my X factor is no one on offense. If there's going to be anyone on offense, it would be Mark Andrews or the Oklahoma tight end who is going off this year. In 2 games, he has 5 receptions, 154 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he's averaging 30 yards a catch.
In the offseason, I think it was back in July, I actually made a tweet saying Mark Andrews was going to be the X factor for this Oklahoma offense this year.
Go ahead. Give everyone your Twitter name.
At MarshJD10.
All right, give him a follow. I just gave JD a shout out. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at dmarsh_52. Twitter shout outs are done. That's the first one I've ever done, I think. So,
first time for everything.
First time for everything. One. All right. And but no, my X factor is going to be the Oklahoma defensive line, and making sure the Ohio State run game stays put and forcing JT Barrett to throw the football, and then the secondary is going to have to lock down and show what they can do, because I'm not impressed with their secondary. I'm not impressed with their defense at all. I know this was like a reloading year for their defense, and we'll have to see what Caleb Kelly, the freshman linebacker, can do, because he came in really hyped starting as a freshman, and all this hype is surrounded around him. So he can be because he's going to be probably a early round pick in NFL draft, just looking at his size, because you can look at Jadeveon Clowney. The only big thing he did at South Carolina was knock a helmet off a dude from Michigan in a bowl game. But then he just had, I guess you can say, consistent numbers, but not really. He was a guy who took plays off, and it's showing in the NFL now. So we got to see what's going to happen with that and Caleb Kelly. But I think it's shutting down the run game and making JT Barrett throw the football and getting off the field on 3rd down, which they were not able to do against Houston at all when there was a mobile quarterback. And just, I think their weakness is defending the short pass game.
Well, they did. If you go back and look at the film, they did their game plan against Houston, which was contain Greg Ward Jr. Greg Ward Jr. had negative rushing yards. Their corners just sucked it up and let those big receivers of Houston just run down the sidelines and just moss on them. So,
but Greg Ward had 321 passing yards.
That's what I'm saying. But they did the game plan, and that was to contain a 1,000-yard scrambling quarterback the year before. Yeah,
but they're still not getting off the field on 3rd down, which I think is always a game plan for every defense.
Well, it comes back to what I was saying. They made stupid penalties, kept them on the field longer, and it all comes down to the stupid penalties. If Oklahoma's defense can cut that out, they will be fine.
Okay, so all right, y'all. Thank y'all for joining us. Catch us on 1130thetiger.com or on YouTube, KWKH 1130. Also, we have a new thing on here at 1130. It's high school football season, and we are now having 1130 The Tiger Game of the Week. You can like us on Facebook at 1130 The Tiger, on Twitter. Follow us there, or also just go to 1130thetiger.com. You can vote for a high school Game of the Week, and we will be there live, passing out little footballs to your kids, or even if you want one, because I know there's some childish adults out there who like to throw those little plastic footballs around. But I will be at the Game of the Week, so go vote. We will be there live. We will be reporting live from there. And if you want to become my friend, I will be there so we can have a nice little conversation. I will be the guy with a lime green shirt on. I'm going to call that I wear a lime green shirt, because I always wear bright colored T-shirts for some reason. I don't know why. But thank you all for joining us. JD, thank you for being here today. It was a great show, bud.
All right, sounds good. Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner, all right. And college football's back, but it's already in the 3rd week. It's going by fast, but it still feels good to say college football is back.
It's just getting started.
Thank you all for joining us. Y'all have a blessed day.